The topic of today's meetup is let's install Dart and walk through its features. So, show of hands, who has an installed copy of Dart on your system right now? Cool. So that's an advantage because you'll already be ready. But for everyone else, let's all go together to the main website for the Dart programming language, dartlang.org. And at dartlang.org, you've got several options if you want to experience what it's like to write something in Dart. One of those options, they've got something built into the browser where you don't even have to install Dart. You can just, in your browser, type some Dart code and see it run. So if you have any trouble doing the next steps that we'll do, you can always fall back to just going to this page, dartlang.org, and you can run something called Dartpad, which is that thing where you can run it in your browser. So if you guys can see my screen, please raise your hand. I know you're having trouble connecting. Can anyone else see my screen in that Uber conference? Oh, you know what? I need to share my screen. Share your screen. Preparing to broadcast. There we go. Okay, you might need to click to view the screen, but show me your hand when you can see my screen in Uber conference. Okay.
I'm not going to be in that conference.
Okay. So, I'm going to click where you can click in that little upper left where it says Open in Dartpad. Now, what you see here in Dartpad, on the left side, you're looking at Dart code. And on the right side, you're looking at the output of what happens when that Dart code runs. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on there. Dart is a language that can be used both on the server and in the client. And what does that mean? A server, a computer that's running to produce a website, is outputting things to you, to your browser, and you are then allowing your browser to run that code, but there's two different places that things are run. So you can run Dart on the server side, but what we're looking at here is the more popular usage of Dart, which is to run Dart on the client side. And that means the code is pushed to your browser and your browser runs that code. Now, you can choose to do either one, and for the first example code that I'm going to show you in a few minutes, I'm going to show you stuff that runs on the server side, but it's the same code. You just decide which space you want to work in. So if you need a place to run Dart, right here I'm going to select everything and delete it, and I'm going to say print hello world. And in that space, we're going to see error, compiling to JavaScript. So let's figure out why. I think it's because I needed to be inside of the main and print hello world. You know what? This is a terrible start. I'm going to back away from there, pretend you never saw that. So, it's a place that you can run Dart. Apparently, I am not thinking in the terms that they are thinking, so they've got HTML that is expecting this output, and I think they're expecting you to make a page out of this stuff. So it's not necessarily just a console. I wish I could find just a console. Let me see. There we go. So I'm just going to say print hello world. Run it. There we go. Okay. Not sure what that was before. I think it was their example that I needed to edit more.
There's a sample in the top right. There's a hello world.
Oh, cool. Even better.
Or like you can modify
Hello world. Yeah, so you know, for those of you that know programming, this is a for loop, and for those of you that don't, the main part that you're interested in is that you're giving an instruction that says output this, and what you're doing is outputting hello and then substituting 0, 1, 2, 3 as you loop through that. So now let's talk about, okay, this is a great place to play with it. How do I install Dart on my machine? there are several ways to do that. If you're on a Macintosh, you can do brew search Dart. If you have Homebrew, it's a package installer, and it's something that you can use to obtain a copy. If you're on a Windows machine, let's take a look at the instructions that they offer for installation. Install Dart from dartlang.org. Install Dart on Windows, and they're recommending chocolaty. If you're familiar with chocolaty, it's basically what Mac users are doing when they're using brew. So there is an installer for Windows, and I work mostly on a Mac, but I also have a Windows 10 machine. And I've discovered that using the chocolaty installer will sometimes mess up a little bit, and it's probably my fault, but what I've discovered is that when I just simply download the archive that has the Dart SDK, or the engine that runs Dart, and compiles the Dart code to JavaScript, or transpiles rather, I can point my editor to that, and I get better results than if I try to use this package manager to make it work. I'd like to show you guys. You can look at this page. They talk about the steps to install, and you guys can choose, and then we're going to maybe go around and make sure that everyone has chosen a path and is successful in getting Dart installed on your machine. But I'm going to show you something that I've done recently, and that is to use Docker. Who's heard of Docker? Who has used Docker? And if you haven't used Docker before, and if you haven't heard of Docker before, it is basically a fast way of getting a virtual machine or the effects of a virtual machine on your system. So let's say that you wanted to run a copy of Perl. You don't necessarily have to install Perl, and you don't necessarily have to create a virtual machine. You simply use Docker to say, I want Perl, and then it will run in a layer that's much smaller, much thinner than otherwise would be required. And you're not polluting your system. You're not affecting your system by doing that approach. So if you go to the Docker Hub, I've created an image that you can run, and I'll show you how that can work. And if you want to do the Docker way, I'll come around and I'll help walk you through that. Basically, you would install Docker, and then you would tell Docker that you want to run this image. And this image that I've created is called Dart, and then there's a tag called developer. So let me demonstrate that to you inside of the terminal, and I'll make it larger here. So Docker images, and here's Dart. So this is basically a copy of Dart that I've got up in the cloud in the Docker Hub, and I'm going to tell it, hey, please pull that down and run it on my machine. And it's going to look like I am running inside of an Ubuntu system with a copy of Dart installed. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to say Docker run an interactive terminal, and that is going to be davidcanhelp/Dart, and I want the developer tag. So when I run this command, right now, it just spun up a sort of virtual Ubuntu box, and in there I can say, do I have a copy of Dart? I do. Which version of Dart is that? I've got version 1.25. So in this space, the reason that I've tagged this as developer is because I've installed the most glorious editor on the planet, of course Emacs, and that's available to you to run. So I can say Emacs here, and then I can do a split screen, and I can say that I want to run in shell, which Dart. So here I have the editing environment where I can edit some Dart code and I can run some Dart code. So if you're interested in what you see there, and if you'd like to do that, I will help you to get set up with that. If you are interested in another approach, which is to use a local installation directly on your computer, Brew is available, and I can help you set up Brew, and I can help you use it to install Dart. And if you are on a Windows machine, or a Linux box, then we can go through the instructions that are given on the Dart website and make sure that you have a copy of Dart running on your machine so that you have the ability to write Dart code and play with Dart. And again, if you get frustrated, if you don't want to do that, let me know, and you can always simply go to their website and you can play with Dart in the browser. You don't actually have to install it on your system. So, does that sound good?
Is that we can try to install
Oh, cool. Yeah, if you already have a Linux box.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to stop the camera, stop the recordings, and we'll just go around and we'll just help each other to get an installation of Dart on your machine.